Yes, I can't read the screen without these things. Let's see if somebody pops on here first. Still driving down the road. I am 70 miles north of maybe Nashville? Maybe. Southbound, maybe. Alright, I'm going to start talking. In the opening stages of military aviation, back to the beginning, you had commissioned officers who were pilots, and you also had enlisted pilots. And that went on World War I, World War II, into Korea. Nowadays, it's officers only. When I was in the military, I flew as a warrant officer. I was an attack helicopter pilot at the time. Okay, you can move over, dude. Sorry, hold on a sec. Got a road pirate up here. So on up and through the Korean War, you would have enlisted pilots. We all know General Chuck Yeager, the famous World War II guy who broke the sound barrier after the war. He was an enlisted pilot in World War II. But they also, in some instances, they had mechanics that could fly aircraft. So it's kind of interesting that you got a problem, mechanic will beat on your aircraft. You were mixing jet aircraft with propeller-driven aircraft for different reasons. In a propeller-driven aircraft, fighter plane didn't really want to mix it up with a jet. They had the speed, the firepower. But one advantage the propeller-driven aircraft had is endurance. They could loiter longer than a piston-driven, than a jet could. Jets were faster, jets had better climb rate and everything, but the prop job plane could turn faster. So when they would go up against a jet, it was basically a defensive fight, and the only position a propeller-driven plane was ever going to have in a dogfight between a jet and a prop job was head-on, and that was a hard place to be. So basically, propeller-driven planes maneuvered to stay away from jets. I mean, he's coming behind you, you turn sharp, and the jet can't match the turn. It's that simple. Whoa, CB radio, sorry. So during the Korean War, they used the prop job planes. Wow. They used a propeller-driven aircraft for ground strike and troop support and interdicting convoys and trains and stuff like that. They didn't send the Corsairs and the P-51 Mustangs up to fight air-to-air combat with jets. They were at their peak. But occasionally they would meet each other. And one specific incident that happened during the Korean War was they took off the machine guns from a Corsair. That's the fighter plane with the wings that go down and then up. Remember that old TV series, Baa Baa Black Sheep? That's what kind of aircraft we're talking about. They took the machine guns out and put in a 20-millimeter cannon under each wing, and they were using it for ground support, a third time. And they were firing up a target, and on the way back to base, they had a mechanical problem. And the pilot called it in, said, I'm having an issue, and he landed on a route somewhere. The mechanic got in the helicopter to fly out to pick the pilot up, and they dropped them off. They switched out. They're behind friendly lines. The pilot jumps in and flies. The mechanic gets out with his wrenches, bangs on the airframe, fixes whatever issue it is, and then he takes off. The mechanic takes off in this fighter plane to fly back. Now, as I was saying, he can fly. The mechanic can actually fly the aircraft, but he's not a fighter pilot. He just can get it from A to B. So the the mechanic fires up this Corsair and takes off, and he starts flying back. He's not very high off the ground, and he's moseying back to base in whatever distance is involved. And a MiG-15, which is a Soviet jet, is flying around in that area, sees him, and goes, here we go, and starts a dive on him. The problem is, the Corsair, let me give you a generic number, cruises at 350 miles an hour when a regular pilot's flying it. Being the mechanic's flying it, he's going probably something under 200 miles an hour. So he's just piddling along, and this jet sees him, goes into a high-speed dive, and the most advantageous for a gun pass, here we go, is to come from above. You dive down on your target, and there's a bigger target than this, coming at you. So this jet's diving on this plane, has no idea he's back there. The pilot, the mechanic's just going, do. Well, as he starts his dive, as he's coming up at rapid speed, trying to time with this fast-moving plane, his angle starts going like this because he can't get the nose down because you got to shoot in front of your target. This North Korean or possibly Soviet pilot, Russian pilot, gets to where he's flying basically straight towards the ground, so it totally throws off his aim. So he goes for a mist and he pulls up. Just so happens to dive in front of the fighter plane. The mechanic, who was startled by this, was like, "Fuck!" because he didn't even know he was there. The Corsair had a heads-up display targeting system. It's like in a car today where you have the electronics that are on the dash. Whoa, noisemaker. So this jet goes down, pulls up in front of him, and instinctively, the mechanic pulls the trigger for that slow-firing 20-millimeter cannon, that boom, 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 and hits the jet as it flies. First detent starts the camera, second detent fires the shells. So this Soviet MiG flies up, pulls up in front of him, he pulls the trigger. I've seen the video, 3 distinct hits, pop, 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 the aircraft bursts into flames and spins out and lands. Crashes, goes out of scene, out of the frame. And the mechanic doesn't change course, doesn't maneuver, just still flying in a straight line. Flies back to base, lands, he's shocked, he's shell-shocked, his hands are shaking. He lands the aircraft, he taxis up, he doesn't even get out of the cockpit. He's just sitting there and he's, and they're like, "What happened?" And he said, I shot down a MiG-15. And they look at him and go, "Shut up, Johnson," or whatever the guy's name was. And he still won't get out of the cockpit. He's totally freaked. Well, they pull the gun camera tape out and they look at the shots for the ground strike and look for reports. And then there's the video of a MiG-15 flying through the shots. And they're like, so they put a kill code on the side of the airplane. And then it's sitting there on the ramp. So people go, "Wow, you shot down a MiG-15?" Yeah, the mechanic actually shot down the MiG jet. And that was actually the first jet kill of the war by a propeller-driven plane of the entire Korean War. There were a handful of other ones that happened later under really weird circumstances. And again, it's usually head-on, so the only way you're going to get a shot. I just got a kick out of the mechanic being the one that did it that time. They don't have enlisted pilots anymore. They don't let mechanics fly aircraft. I mean, the world has changed. But that was an interesting time. The Corsair fighter plane was actually in naval service from Marine Corps/naval service from, I think, 1943 to 1965. They actually used it because it was such a wonderful, reliable aircraft. With a big radial motor in front of you, so you're doing ground strike. That's actually protecting you from ground fire. And the P-51 Mustang, phenomenal aircraft, not a good ground strike aircraft because it had a radiator on the bottom. So he would fire a target and pull up, and now there's your belly, and they start shooting at you, and they get 1 or 2 rounds through your belly, and you're done. You start getting a leak, and then a few minutes later, engine seizes up. So it wasn't really a good deal. Okay, that's just, again, some weird thing that popped into my head driving down the road. The first jet kill by a propeller-driven plane during the Korean War was done by a mechanic. Didn't even know what was going on. Alrighty, take care.